Sensuality is an enriching experience that transcends mere physical touch. It invites us to explore openness and vulnerability, creating deeper connections with others. By engaging in mindful touch, we enhance our awareness of each other's desires and boundaries. This practice cultivates intimacy as it encourages honest communication and emotional safety. Each caress becomes a dialogue between bodies, transcending words and allowing us to connect on a profound level. Embracing the art of sensuality fosters trust, reigniting passion and curiosity in relationships. It's a journey of discovery, inviting us to celebrate the beauty of human connection through the transformative power of touch.
Hi, Lolita.
Hello.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. It's a Saturday morning here. Where are you?
Oh, so I am speaking in from India, and it's Saturday night, actually 10:30 p.m. for me.
Oh my gosh, that's so late. Oh, you still do interview so late?
Yes, I'm completely used to it. It's like my daily schedule. So I'm totally finding it, so excited, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation because I am filling in for Avik today, and my name is Sana. I co-host along with him, one of our many shows. So it's really nice to meet you, Lolita.
Well, nice to meet you too, and then thank you for inviting on your show.
Thank you. And which part of the world you are from?
So I am from Lithuania, but I live now in US in Houston.
Oh, lovely. Great, Lolita. So let me introduce you to the format of the show here. So this is a 30 minutes of conversation we are going to have. And it's an audio podcast. And
Okay.
we will have a great discussion, about stress, childhood trauma, and how these experiences kind of influence our choices in our lives, and especially in relationships, which is kind of one of the core topics in pleasure principles. So really excited to have the discussion with you. We will start with an intro, and then we will proceed to questions around this topic.
Okay, sounds great.
And we'll release this episode tomorrow only. And also, once it's released, we'll share the episode link with you in email and on Podmatch. So you can share it across your platform and socials as well.
Oh, thank you. That's great. And also, I'm very impressed that you can work so fast and already release it tomorrow. Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you, Lolita. So shall we begin?
Yes, please.
Okay. Hello and welcome, listeners, to Pleasure Principles with your host, Sana. Get ready to explore the connections between life's biggest challenges and our deepest joys in the coolest, most intriguing ways possible. Today, we are diving into stress, childhood trauma, and how these experiences, especially, influence our choices in relationships. And who's better to guide us than the amazing Lolita Guarin? She is a four-time #1 best-selling Amazon author, stress management coach, and a powerhouse of inspiration. Lolita's story of overcoming burnout and uncovering the roots of her stress is nothing short of transformative. So grab your favorite drink, lean in, and let's untangle the roots of stress to find your path to resilience and joy. So, Lolita, welcome to the show, and it is an absolute pleasure having you with us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor to be speaking with you today as well.
Great, Lolita. Before you realized, that you needed to manage stress, and you ventured into the world of stress management, what was your journey like? What was the turning point or the moment?
I came for my American dream to US 24 years ago, and I was working a lot and doing a lot of overtime, and it came to the point that I was not really taking care of myself physically and emotionally, and um, to the point that my health really was impacted. And the doctor said I better be taking care of myself because the stress really messed up my hormones in my body, and that almost didn't go well at all. And I was like, I cannot believe it. I'm in my 30s and I'm already have health problems, which probably a lot of people can relate. And when doctor said, well, no, it's stress. You really need to start taking care of that. Everybody around me said, well, first of all, we all have stress in our lives. So, there's a big eye roll. And the second is like, well, just go pop a pill and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to medicate myself. Obviously, there are other ways that we can manage stress, which I call the stress management bandages, which is, everybody know by now that, yes, we need to drink water, we need to have proper nutrition, we need to, exercise, meditation, yoga, all of those great things that everybody preaches us to do. And it helped a lot. And then I became a stress management coach, and that was over 10 years ago now. And but it still felt to me like there was something else that is just kind of not a complete picture. And then one day I was reading a book about how to get more coaching clients, which is about purely business. And the author of the book mentioned that she grew up with an alcoholic father. And guess what? I was like, oh my gosh, my dad was alcoholic as well. And then when I start diving into whole childhood trauma and just having an environment that someone grows up not being supported emotionally, and from a side looks great, like my mom took care of everything, I went to school, I was a good student, and all of this looks like a great, amazing family. But apparently I was not supported emotionally, and there were so many things that I was always not feeling safe in the environment. So I was always anxious and stressed out. That was like by default. So then when I was overworking myself and not taking care of my body, my mind, and everything, that's my body said, listen, I cannot do this anymore. And that's how I became sick. And that's why I realized that how we all manage stress is not necessarily depends on those bandages, meditation, writing, and drinking water and all that. It also has to do how wounded we are. You need to address the wound first in order to manage your life and your stress levels as well.
I think it's more of understanding the root cause and acting upon it. So that's a great that can be a great takeaway for all of our listeners also, and someone who is listening to this conversation and undergoing through maybe similar experiences or any kind of stress. So thank you so much for sharing this with all of us, Lolita. Now, another important aspect, how do childhood experiences like trauma or deep-rooted trauma impact the way we handle stress as adults?
So, for example, we can talk about how we handle relationships that could be romantic relationships or even family relationships with your sisters, with your parents, or even relationships in the workplace that has to do with your coworkers. And I do coaching, so I have clients that come to me and they say, I'm stressed out, burnout, I'm doing so much, I am getting physically sick, I'm not happy, and let's do something. And all of this, it depends on how wounded you were when you were a child. And, there are people who can say, oh, well, no, I had a very happy childhood. I think we all are wounded at somehow. We all have childhood trauma because let's just face it, being a human, being born, it's already traumatic. But it depends how much do you have of that. Some of us have more, some of us have less. But specifically what I want to point it out that, so some adults who are listening right now and they're like, well, gosh, I don't even know, am I impacted by this or not? Simply just, you can ask yourself, are you a people pleaser? Like, do you want to please everyone and you want to be, always nice? And let's say in the workplace environment, you always there for everybody else to take care of it. If people come to you and they say, hey, can you take care of this too? You say, yes, of course. because you're afraid to say no. Do you always want to be like the best employee? Do you always want to be the best child? Do you always want to achieve things? Do you afraid to even have any boundaries because you think you constantly need to serve? And that goes the same for any workplace environment, for any relationship. And I love I listen a lot and I follow the Dr. Gabor Mate. Probably I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but he does a lot about the childhood trauma. And what it really helped me to understand, when he said, if you in your childhood were not appreciated and seen and validated enough as a child for who you are, just the way you are, without doing anything special, just purely how you are, then because we children, we feel unsafe and we need to be fed and taken care of, then we become somebody else. We become more achieving. We become useful. We think, if I'm useful, then they will not get rid of me. So that's where it comes this people pleasing from. It comes of this constant need that you need to be validated. You constantly need to achieve things. You want to have a bigger house. You want to have a bigger car. You need to achieve things. Or like even having, in the family dynamics, it's like, oh, I'm going to be the mother who never takes a break because I want to sacrifice myself for my children. And that sacrifice shows that you're not comfortable fully being of you. That's why it can be very stressful, because you don't even give yourself a break. You do not even give yourself permission to relax.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And why do you think people often repeat relationship patterns tied to their past traumas?
So I can say, talking about me personally, when I realized that, so basically my relationship with my dad just made me to see how the relationships are in general. So meaning I'm going to do everything, and the man in my relationship should do very little, and I'm okay with that. There was no boundaries, constant people pleasing, and a constant fear of abandonment. So then I replicated the same thing in my relationships too. And I got married, and now I'm divorced, but I was in a marriage that pretty much replicated my relationship with my dad. He was just doing whatever he wants to do. I'm always a good wife. Everything is taken care of. I cook, I clean, and making sure he's happy. I work full day. I come back and still continue working, like a lot of women these days do. Like, you have to take care of everybody, and afraid even to take care of your own needs. Because first of all, when you come from a childhood trauma, you feel guilty and you feel ashamed even to recognize that you have any needs. Like, you have a need to rest. You have to give yourself a break. But we think that if we will just not do anything, we'll be seen as useless, and that will be discarded. So there's a lot of this fear of abandonment that pushing us to continue doing, to the point that we burn out, stressed out, and we become physically sick.
Yeah, yes, I 100% agree with that. And I would like to, have your opinion on this. Some say stress is just a part of modern life. So, how do you respond to those who believe it's unavoidable?
So I think that stress is obviously going to be there, but it's like, imagine like your life is like a car that you drive, and you have to maintain that car. It's like, your body, it's your vehicle. And if we just don't take care of it and we allow ourselves to constantly stress, then we're not maintaining that car. So no matter where we go, we will have difficulty getting there. But it's all about how we take the stress itself as well. It was very interesting for me personally to realize that, because I come from an environment where I didn't feel safe, because I don't know when my dad's gonna come back drunk, and I'm only one child. So it was very stressful and very lonely, because I have nobody else, nowhere else to run, just hide if my dad's drunk. So because of that environment, and because I was not feeling safe, I was just afraid of that, so much of that rejection, that I will just put up with anything that was thrown my way. And also, because I was in a constant fight or flight mode, that was my default. I made everything big deal. Everything became like catastrophizing. Am I pronouncing this right? So every little thing in my life when I was adult, I was taking it like this is very big deal. And I noticed with a lot of us adults, there's always a question: is like, is it really that big of a deal as we think it is? Because there's so many times that like for example, we're sitting in traffic, and there's somebody in the car cuts you off. There's so much of triggering happening that moment, and there was so much of we take personally that we really need to ask ourselves, like, do we really need to get upset right now and yell at that person because they cut me off? When I used to be that driver, and then when I started working on myself and on my stress level, I realized that I'm in control of like simple situations. Let's just talk about simple situations here, where I can just not react to that. So now, when somebody cuts me off in traffic, you know what I tell myself? They probably need to pee. Maybe they're in a hurry because they really need to use the restroom. And then I gotta make something, like maybe there is a reason. So let's just go, because you always need to ask yourself, who is really that moment? Is it hurting me? Is it hurting me or is it hurting them? Like, is it really worth it? Or there are so many times we can wind up over other people's opinions about the news and different things. Of course, especially in the things that really matter to us. But we need to ask ourselves, like, because I'm going to get angry right now, is that going to really help me? Can I control that issue? Can I really control that? So first start paying attention to your behavior and what things that are trigger you, because some things will be more triggering than others. And that doesn't mean that you really, just ask yourself, maybe I just can let this go. Like there's a question, doesn't matter. Will it make a difference 5 years from now in your life? If it doesn't make no difference, then just let it go.
Definitely. Wow. That's a great answer, Lolita. And now, listeners often hear about meditation and yoga, and you also said in the beginning for stress relief. So, how do these compare to addressing deeper underlying traumas?
So I think there's a lot of stress happening, and we worry a lot of the things that we cannot control. Mm-hmm. For example, like the future or the people in our lives, or worry about how what will happen, and there's always this overthinking and analyzing, and so I did yoga and I do meditation, and it's like if I will all day long will be worrying about something, and then I go into meditation, and of course it's a very great tool. But I am pretty sure I'm going to get out of that meditation and will continue worrying about the same thing. Meditation itself is not going to solve the issue. Everything is in your mind. So I recommend my clients, set an appointment with yourself to worry. Okay, so you can have a little notebook, or we have phones. Write it down, the list that, let's say you're going about your day, and there's something that you get worried about, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get this raise, or I don't know, is my child will get home, or whatever, or any worry. And then you open your phone and you write it down, that worry. And then you make an appointment with yourself and you say, you know what, I'm going to worry about this later. Not right now. I'm going to worry about that later. What happens this moment is that you honor your feelings. You did not discard them. You did not just, talk to yourself like a parent and say, don't just stop worrying. That's the worst thing you can do. But you honor yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to address this issue. So then you say, maybe tomorrow on Tuesdays at 3 p.m., this is your worrying time, okay? Then you go to open that list and you look through all of those items. I can guarantee you a lot of those items on that list, it will be nothing to worry about anymore because they solved themselves, or you found them now kind of funny because, like, well, of course, this is not going to happen. Like, of course. The second thing that I also recommend a lot is if there's an issue that we worry a lot, we need to write it down, the list of things, what you will do if this thing happens. So you're introducing yourself to the worst case scenario. And for example, like so let's say somebody is worrying right now that they will lose a job. And you can say, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, well, I'm going to lose my job, then I'm going to run out of money. Okay, I ran out of money. What else I'm going to do? Okay, well, I guess I need to go find another job. Okay, what else? Let's say you do not get a job. Okay, then I'm going to ask my parents for money. Okay, what's then? Okay, I run out of money. Okay, what's then? I'm going to go and live in the basement. And what's the worst that can happen? And then until to the point that you get and you realize you are not going to die, because our brain works on survivalism. So if you get to the worst case scenario and you kind of prove it to yourself that the worst case happens and you're really not going to die. And of course, I'm not talking about illnesses or diseases, and that's a little bit different. And I don't want to get into this. This is professional doctor conversation, of course. But I'm talking about a lot of those worries that we can control. And it's like, okay, so basically what happens, you take care and prepare yourself in your brain for this path. And what happens when you already went that path, even if it's imaginary, you kind of saw that, hey, you know what? It's not pleasant, but I'm not really I'm not gonna die. We will figure these things out, and then you prepare that plan. So if you think that you will lose your job, how about starting working on your resume now? How about making calls and thinking, hey, you know what will I do? What's the plan B? What's the plan C? And prepare ahead of time. But because when you start preparing ahead of time for the worst case scenario, you're telling yourself that you can control this. And because you can control it, you feel safer. And the more of this controlling you will do, taking things in your own hands, then you will gain trust with yourself. And the more trust in yourself, in your abilities you have and build over time, you will be much better at managing stress, because you will know that no matter what happens, you'll be able to handle it.
Yep, that's true. So why do we pick partners who mirror unresolved wounds or, from our past? Is it subconscious, or do we seek kind of a comfort or closure within that?
So I agree with all of what you said, because it really depends on what point we're going to look at it. I heard a lot of opinions that we want the closure and we want a resolution and things. But the thing is, all comes from our needs. We need to be satisfied, and we need to feel safe in order to live. And those are our needs. But what gets sad, and I think it's sad the right word, is that our needs, if you grew up in the environment that you are not happy and not feeling safe, that's going to be your need, not to be safe. That's going to be your need to be neglected. That's going to be your need to be in a relationship with a narcissist, because for you, when you were growing up, let's say having a narcissist parent in your family was your normal. That was your normal thing, what helped you to survive. So our brain loves safety. I just told you that it's all about the control and feeling safe. So you feel safe in your normal environment. So if your normal is to live with a narcissist, what you learned, you will seek another narcissist to live with, because that's all you know, even though if it's really, really hurting you.
Yeah. Great, Lolita. And before we wrap up, can healing trauma ever feel like a betrayal to the version of ourselves that survived through it?
So there was a lot of, when I was working through my childhood trauma, and I'm still healing, we all are, the healing never stops. Yeah. But there were multiple stages that I was going through. And I realized what helped me to come, first of all, when I find out that, I had childhood trauma, I felt like, oh my God, there's something's wrong with me. I'm broken. That's it. I'm broken. I'm not fixable. The rest of my life is going to be very sad and pathetic, because when I was reading about those children who did not have emotional validation and feeling safe, it looks like, well, that's it. I'm broken. There's no hope for me. It was it was a lot of depression going through. But later on, I realized that, and also loneliness, or feeling, oh my gosh, I'm the only one here. But then I saw that there are a lot of people like this. And then there was hope of thinking, well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to work through this. I still want good things in my life. And then I started, it's funny, when I realized that all that childhood trauma was caused by my dad, I became very angry. And because when you think that somebody who's supposed to be there for you, they should be taking care of you and they should support you, they should supposed to watch your back, they failed. And I was very angry at my dad of thinking, how could he has only one child and he couldn't even take care of that one child. Then I went through that angry period. And then I came to conclusion that how is that we learn, like you just asked a question, why we pick the same partners as our parents would say, because my dad never learned how to be a parent himself. He never had a father figure. I mean, he came also from my grandma and grandpa. They lived for a very long time, and he was also from a normal family, what looks like from a side. But my basically what it is, the traumas go from generation to generation because we learn that from our parents, and the parents learn from grandparents, and they continue going this. So when I understood that my dad also was alcoholic because he couldn't handle his pain with his own childhood trauma, and I started looking at him as a wounded toddler who's really not capable of being an adult or authority figure the way I want him to. That's how the forgiveness and understanding came. So now I can talk with my dad. Actually, I'm going to have coffee today with him in a coffee shop, and we can talk about the things. And because I understand he was also dealing with this, and there's a lot of people dealing with the same thing. And also, when it comes to do with stress, if we in any relationship, or even you're talking with someone, let's say you go to the coffee shop and barista is mean to you, or cashier mean to you, we should not take this too personally, because we need to ask ourselves, what is happening in that other person's life? Maybe there's something happening to them. That's why they don't know how to handle it, and they're very upset, and they're taking this on us. So it's to have more compassion to other people, but also towards ourselves. This is where it starts. And honoring our own needs of thinking, I have to be wanted. I have to be seen. I want. This is human needs. We all, no matter where we're from, what religion, what anything. At the end of the day, we all want to be loved, appreciated, seen, fed, and safe. Those are human needs.
Yeah. Great. That is really, really empowering, and in fact, very crucial indeed, Lolita. And before we conclude, for our listeners, if you would recommend, what's the first step they can take today to start breaking free from the stress trauma cycle?
So the first thing, those who have a lot of stress that has to do with the childhood trauma, it is that word self-care and self-love can trigger a lot of things. And that did for me as well. So for those who still listening in, if you feel ashamed or you feel guilty of taking care of yourself, know this, that you cannot help other people and take care of those that you love if you do not take care of yourself first. Imagine that you are a vessel full of water. You have to be full. You have to be full in order for anyone else to come and refresh themselves. So when you start taking care of yourself, you're also taking care of themselves too. So please don't think about that self-love and self-care is a very selfish thing to do. I think the word, the way it is, this one's probably created by somebody who was very selfish, because when we understand that we can take a little break, like one advice I can say, put the alarm on your phone every hour, and whatever it rings, take 1 minute break from whatever you're doing. That itself will help you to release the burnout. And also you will show to yourself that you can be there for yourself and honor your needs and honor your emotions, and have more patience with yourself as well as with others, and be also kind to yourself.
Definitely. That was a great conclusion to this discussion, Lolita. And thank you so much for taking us through the incredible journey through the complexities of stress, trauma, and relationships with you, and for also helping us uncovering how childhood shapes our stress responses to understanding the patterns we repeat in love and life. So thank you for this conversation full of wisdom. So if our listeners, they want to connect with you and explore more about the resources you are providing, the coaching you are providing, how can they do that?
So they're all welcome to go to my website, beamazingyou.com. And also, if you like stress management tips, I have a podcast called From Stress to Success Blueprint on YouTube. And the YouTube channel also called the same as my website, beamazingyou.com. And every day I release an episode with under 10 minutes that talks about some stress management tip.
Wow. That is really, really helpful. And we'll have the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners. And listeners, before we wrap up this conversation, I would like to add that stress doesn't have to define you. It can be a stepping stone to growth, healing, and resilience, whether it's exploring your past, breaking free from old cycles, or simply taking the first step toward self care and self love. You can rewrite your own story. So, if you found this conversation as inspiring and helpful as I did, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to Pleasure Principles, share it with a friend or any loved one who needs to hear this, and drop us a review. It helps more than you know. And until next time, I am Sana, your host, reminding you to lean into life's challenges with curiosity and courage. Let's continue this journey together, one insight, one breakthrough, one joy at a time. Take care, stay resilient, and keep finding the pleasure in life's principles. Thank you.